Welcome, welcome. Here, I'm going to put this down like this. Welcome to another episode of Duluth Conservative. We've got three people tonight. Art Johnson is joining us. Dave is on the back computer because his computer failed. I remember last week I said it was from 1998. Well, it died. So we're going to do our best with what we've got.
Yep.
So, welcome, Art. Thanks for joining us again.
Hey, Sean, it's great to see you and Dave again, and have been here for a while, so hope things are going well, and so glad to catch up on stuff.
Yeah. So for people who haven't seen this before, this is a show about a conservative viewpoint of talking about Duluth, Minnesota in particular, and then Minnesota news, national news, maybe international news, and then we follow it up with health and fitness. We have guests come on regularly. Art is one of them. He brings a wealth of knowledge to our stupidity here. So thanks for joining us, Art. Let's go through these. I know you haven't seen the list, so I'm just going to surprise you with what we're going to talk about.
Okay. The test is on.
I wanted to start out with just talking about housing in general. And Art, you and I had a conversation a couple days ago about this, but I wanted to bring this up. It isn't really a news story, but it's talking about housing in Duluth. And all I ever hear from people is how we need more housing, more and more housing. We need more housing. We're in a housing crunch. And I started doing a little research, and I noticed that in 1960, which was the biggest population we ever had in Duluth, we were at 107,000 people, but we had just over 30,000 households. So about three and a half people per household. In 2022, we had 86,000 people. So that's 20,000 people less. And we had 6,000 more households, 36,000 households, 2.3 people per household. So we have more housing now, and we have less people, but we have this incredible crunch of people looking for houses here. And the math doesn't work out to me, and I'm trying to figure out why. Dave, you added some more information here. 1960, we had 3.4 million people in Minnesota. Now we have 5.7 million. And again, the people per household goes down substantially. So we have less people living in more houses.
Correct. So I was really curious to see how Duluth was in relation to the state.
Yeah.
And we have more housing. We have more housing than the state does.
On average.
On average. So, but it does show that, people aren't staying at home as long as they used to.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up when we were talking about this, I'll set the stage and then we'll have a discussion about it, is the population is expected to decline starting in 2030 based on current statistics. We have almost a zero population growth the way it is now. And so when we're talking about housing, especially when it comes to Duluth, I'm wondering if people have a target number that they're trying to reach. What's going to happen when we start piling people onto this city and we don't have the infrastructure to handle it, and we don't have the tax base to handle it? And then the push for affordable housing typically comes with very little tax base increase. So we've got increased service needs, but we have very little tax increase to pay for it. So I think it's some problems that we're facing here that we need to kind of address before we go all out on just building houses for everybody, everywhere. So let me throw it to Art first, since he is the guest, and I'm going to give it over to Dave. So what do you think about this, Art? What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, first I'll kind of pat myself on the back that we had the housing meeting here last week, or I guess it was earlier this week, and that was put out by the Center of American Experiment, which I'm on the board. It's a conservative think tank, and we tried to experiment around with that. We're trying to see were we going to get any people attending, which we did. We had about 50 people there, which was higher than our expectation. We wanted to know, we have conservative causes, like we can talk about mining, energy, social issues, all those. So we decided to branch out into housing to see how it would go. And there wasn't quite a bit of interest. But having said that, I'm sure I really agreed with a lot of the panelists. People are all over the board on this. And I kind of agree with you. Like, we do have housing in Duluth. And and one of the panelists said, well, we need housing for all the doctors and nurses that are moving into Essentia. That's good. Of course, we want that. And they said, well, yeah, that's the higher end people, but it's going to trickle down. They get new houses, then there'll be other houses open up. And there's certainly some truth to that. But I think I want to bring up one other statistic, which you brought about. What was the population back in 1960? I think it was like 105,000 we had here. It was the highest population.
Right.
And it's interesting. I was on the school board. I just want to throw out another statistic on that before we actually got back to the housing. Is that back in 1960, I think 1970 was the highest number of students we had in the Duluth public schools. That number was, if I recall correctly, 25,000 students. And now we have it's either 8,000 or 9,000 students now in the Duluth public schools. That's a third of what we had at one time, or back in 1970. And that's an amazing decrease, of course. And of course, hey, we'll talk about the Duluth public schools, but that indicates that there's a lot of people here. There's not a lot of small families. Women aren't having as many children and all that. But I'll just throw back to the housing issue again. I think I live in West Duluth. We have a lot of substandard houses there. We do on the Central Hillside too. And so I don't know, maybe some of your data is thrown off by having substandard houses, but more important, there's one thing that was brought up at the housing forum that we had was at one time you could get a house in Duluth for $1 if you promised to stay there for 10 years and fix it up. We know we have a lot of fixer-uppers in Duluth. We know how expensive it is to hire carpenters now. But I think that would be a fantastic program because there's houses, the neighbor next to me, they sold their house for, I think about 85,000 about 3 years ago. There's another house from me a block away that was for sale for 220,000 last year, and it never sold. And it got took off, and now it's off the market. This is just never sold. And I live in an area kind of near Spirit Mountain. We got trails all over. It should be a really high demand area for. We're looking at the demographics as being young people who want to get out and use our green space and use our trails, but yet. It seems like we got the houses here, but we don't have anybody wanting to buy them. So I kind of question some of the panelists saying that, we got people we had one house that 15 people bidding on it. Well, they're not looking in West Duluth, and because two of my neighbors, one didn't even sell, and to throw on another topic here is that the house that didn't sell, unfortunately. The fellow died when he was on summer or winter vacation in Florida. The house immediately got taken over by squatters, which we didn't know. I drove by it every day. So, it's like that's the whole other issue, which we didn't bring up, of course, in the thing. But, squatters are a major issue in other areas, I know. And so we've got people that are tracking the housing market. When a house is empty, they know, and they literally go and move in. And so, I don't know what all that means, how it fits into our topic here, but it's an issue that, we have housing here not being taken care of very well. And I'd like to see some of these old houses. Most of my houses in my neighborhood were built back in the 1920s. And the houses are not the best. Some of them are pretty nice. But the yards are fantastic. We got big maple trees. We got big ash trees. We got mature forests. We got nice lawns. Yeah, the houses may not be the best, but boy, it's a fantastic area. Everybody wants to buy their new house up in East Duluth at $350,000. Well, hey, come on, look at other areas besides those areas. And I don't know if the realtors aren't pushing other areas, or people don't want them, or people are moving in, or only high-end people that don't want them. They want to buy what I call that affordable housing. That's another topic.
Let me check with Dave and see what he has to say. So what are your thoughts on this?
That's something we've been talking about the whole time is what do you mean by affordable housing? What's the definition? Affordable to who? You know, Elon Musk, everything's affordable to, all cities affordable to him.
Right.
So just saying we need more affordable housing is just a complete waste of breath because it has no definition right now.
Right.
Like,
A problem with that too is with the amount of taxes they stick on our property, there is no affordable housing here. I mean, you can't get affordable housing if you're going to tax us to death on it. My taxes now on my house, which I have a mid-level house for Duluth, is almost $900 a month. So that's about what I was paying for rent when it was more than what I was paying for rent when I first moved down to the cities way back. But that's in perpetuity. That's not going down. That's just their base. They'll keep going up with that. And so I have to come up with that every month for the rest of my life if I'm going to stay in this house. And that's one of the things they talked about is people get locked in their house, then they get pushed out of their house because of taxes, and they got to leave. And then somebody's supposed to be a starter coming in, and then coming in, putting a down payment on, paying for a house, and the first time their furnace fails, they're bankrupt. You know, it just doesn't work.
Well, that kind of goes on to throw out the issue about we have a lot of apartment buildings being built. There's 2 new ones being built down in West Duluth, one near the Menards, the other one near down on 21st Avenue West near the Curly Bar. And there's a bunch of other new ones that went up. We got a whole bunch of those in over West Duluth, at Riverside, Morgan Park. So I guess it's cheaper to rent, but those people that are paying the rent, they don't see their property taxes, and I would assume
They don't see it.
living
They
unit
don't
is
see
a
them.
whole lot less. They're paying a whole lot less taxes than somebody living in a house. I mean a real house. I'm not talking about the affordable housing, the low income affordable housing. So I think we get hit double whammy. You know, all these apartment buildings are not helping out the property tax. I want to cheer off what you said, Sean, on the property tax. My one neighbor, I've told you about the 2 other houses. One neighbor, very talented carpenter, craftsman, woodworker. He built his own house. He and his wife built it. They're retired now. Their taxes are, I think, $9,000 to $10,000 a year. They said, I really don't know. I mean, we built the house. It's a beautiful house, maple wood. They got maple trees in the neighborhood, and he sawed it up. And he's a craftsman, and they're worried about being able to afford $9,000 or $10,000 a year is a lot, and that's not, his house is not expensive.
Right.
My house, I'm paying, I think, about $6,000, and I got a
That's a
medium price.
lot.
I got a modular house. I went to tax court, and hey, I'll throw this out, as everybody should go to tax court because people have to know in government that people are upset about paying taxes. And one of the senators at the housing market said, well, it doesn't matter if your house value is low. It all depends on how many enumerators, how many houses there are. Well, sorry, Senator, that's a bunch of BS because nobody's ever seen taxes go down ever. And our value goes up, the taxes go up right with it. So I don't know where, we need to have.
I disagree with a couple things he said. One of them was, the role of the government isn't to limit corporations from buying houses. We just need to build and build and build, and then it won't be profitable anymore. That was incredible for me to hear. I can't even follow his logic on that.
Yeah, no, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed by that comment. And he's a realtor, and he does real estate investment. I don't know why people would elect anybody who's a realtor and has real estate investment, because what are they going to pass? They're going to pass laws that build more buildings so they can make more money. So I'm not saying this guy's doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if I was a realtor and I was in politics, I'd try to make it attractive so I could do more sales.
Well, he definitely seemed like I'd say a typical politician. But there was one data which I'll throw out here and see if you guys want to react to it. Is I thought this was an interesting data. He did have some good data, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but he said the average cost to build a single family dwelling in Duluth, he said now costs $450,000.
No, it was higher.
He
I thought it
compared
was
that
500.
yeah, and he compared that to other states like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. And I think South Dakota, if I remember right, the average price of a house was what, 300,000 or something.
It
Anyway,
was low. It was
significantly,
280.
significantly less. So that's an issue, of course, with us too, is that why is things so expensive in Duluth? And why are the taxes so ridiculously high? I mean, they're ridiculously high. Why does it cost so much to build a house here? And those are questions which I'd like to, our city has to concentrate on, and we need a little more looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. Why are our taxes so high? Where is that money going? I really want to know. Yeah, we see our county, city, school, and we see them spread out on our tax bill. But boy, everything keeps going up and up and up, and we're getting less and less services.
And I do think it is a problem because of the rentals. I think a lot of businesses and people snatch up rentals, and so there's less housing out there for people to go live in. And where I used to live, the Kenwood neighborhood is a lot of college housing now. It used to be single family homes. Yeah, and it's rentals. So
I did find a stat that I didn't have time to get published in time for this broadcast, but Duluth is ranked third in the nation for decreasing house prices.
Really?
Yep.
Decreasing house prices?
Correct. And the number 1 and 2 were in Florida because of the hurricanes and the insurance and the HOAs. That was causing condo prices to drop massively because the HOA numbers are so high. An HOA is sort of like property taxes. They just want the money, therefore they can raise the money. Mm-hmm. So as your bills go up, so does HOAs. So you stay out of HOAs for the first thing, especially down in Florida now. But that was an interesting statistic that Minnesota was actually, or Duluth was actually ranked for losing money. There was no other place in the state that loses money like Duluth does.
We still ought to spend it.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. It's like people are paying a lot for a house, and now but you said their value is going down, and
yeah,
yet the realtors told us, they have houses that they have 12 bidders on them, and it's like, I don't know. There's
one other thing I want to bring up. When I lived in Minneapolis, when I worked in Minneapolis, I used to live in Blaine and Shoreview and Bloomington. That's about 15, 16 miles away from the city. We have a lot of land around Duluth too. Just because they work in Duluth doesn't mean they have to actually live in Duluth. I mean, it's not a bad thing for them to come in here, go to work, and go back home. So, I never hear talk about that though. I always talk about we got to do it in Duluth, and we are built out pretty much. I mean, we've got the Lester Park golf course land. Other than that, most of this land has been taken, unless you want to just have a condensed building of city blocks here, which I don't think I want to live there. But people seem to like that or want it.
That's why, if you're going to work in Duluth, you better not live in Duluth.
Yeah, right. Well, if I lived in Hermantown, my tax would be less.
Well, actually, they're more, but that's
really?
Yeah,
not sales tax.
Yeah, and they just raised the sales tax again, or they added 10 more years before the sunset of the half a percent, because they want to pay for the new hockey rink. So that's 10 more years of added taxes in the.
All right, I'm going to move on. We're going to move on from housing, but good conversation so far. I wanted to have an update thing, so I'm going to bring up that the Duluth Huskies home opener is on Saturday. It's at Wade Stadium. They're going to be allowing people in at 4:35. First pitch is at 5:35. Home opener against Eau Claire. I don't know. Do you ever go to Wade Stadium and watch baseball, Art?
I don't. I live out this way, of course, but I'm not a professional sports fan at all. And but I've heard other residents talk about it. They're kind of excited about seeing more activity.
Yeah, it's minor league. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah, so I
personal.
so I might start going. It sounds like a kind of a fun time, and it's certainly good for West Duluth to have more activity going on. So I'm hoping they keep that activities going, and it gets to be more of a community effort. It would be really nice to see.
Right.
Along with the the football team, the Harbor Monsters, who won the championship last year. So that's good. Good Duluth deck.
Is that the arena football?
Arena football.
Oh, okay. I keep seeing that. I never know when the games are, though.
Yeah, I don't know when they added a couple more teams, so I don't know when the games actually are, but they're called the Harbor Monsters, so check them out.
All right. Let's move on to a topic that, Art, you were bringing this up right before the show about the homeless camp that was set up in the church in Kenwood, and the neighbors got that blocked, at least temporarily. So this is a church out in Kenwood, and I'm trying to find my news story on it. What's the name of the church?
That's a vineyard, isn't it?
Vineyard, yeah. So I especially like the headline in the Duluth News Tribune. It says Duluth leaves homeless people on curb for now. So no bias there.
Yeah, right.
But they got it passed from the city council, and the neighbors went, "Whoa, wait a second. Let's put the brakes on it so it's temporarily stopped for now." I don't know if it's going to last, but at least I think it's a good thing that the neighbors are weighing in and have a say in what happens in their neighborhood. And the church just isn't making a decision for them. And this is a pretty big decision. This isn't like, are we going to fly the American flag 20 feet high or 25 feet high? This is actually having homeless people coming to that destination place every day. And then God knows what during the day. I understand that.
They have to leave during the day.
Yeah. So where are they going? In the neighborhood. Right. So, so we talked about this a couple times, Art, on a couple different shows about this happening, and it kind of got slid in. Like the neighbors didn't know about it. It just went into the city council, and then it got approved, but the neighbors did push back on this. So I think it's good that they push back.
Yeah, well, I was just reading a thing from the TV station WDIO, and I'll read this to you. I don't know if you've read this before up on the air, but anyway, one resident's emails that was opposing this, of course, said, quoting, "Our neighborhood is very concerned about the direct negative impacts from the Safe Bay program that the CARE, which is apparently Center for American Indian Relations, experienced. There are documented impacts of open drug use, verbal harassment, vandalism, profound numbers of needles, personal safety issues, and fear of the unpredictable behaviors of the Safe Bay clients." I mean, that's I think is pretty much typical of the homeless issues across the country, and certainly is that way in Duluth. And did you guys talk about this? If this is old news, that's okay. But I understood too that this church got some kind of a government grant or some like $150,000 grant to do this. And so everybody says, "Oh yeah, we're concerned about the people." But if they got $150,000, they're not concerned about the people. They're concerned about, hey, they just got a whole bunch of money to put these people up. So it's a little bit of misleading data there. If the church got $150,000.
Yeah.
I did find the actual lawsuit or that the neighborhood found to put a stop to. A couple parts that I found interesting was they put the safety fence on somebody's property over the property line just by guessing where it was. So that was the first one. The one that was most interesting was said, Commissioner Adet stated that this is a good program and I'm willing to bend the rules.
Oh, well, isn't that nice of them?
Yes. So there was rules in place and he didn't really want to follow them. So they were okay with bending the rules.
It's all right. So. We don't have to follow rules.
Yeah.
That's for you people.
Well, let me throw in, since you already talked about it, I'll be kind of short, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for the homeless people. And I know a lot of people that think Chums is the best thing that's ever happened. I think we talked about this when I was on there before. some should not be in Duluth. It should be outside of Duluth. And,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it should not be in downtown. Duluth is a scourge downtown. And I was over at the park. It used to be called Leif Erikson Park. I don't know if it's still called that.
Yeah.
And so I was out wandering around there and down at the hospitals. And so I go in to use the porta potties. There's a bunch of these blue porta potties all over. And of course, I look down the hole.
Oh. You don't want to do that no matter what.
No, well, what did I see? It was literally all full of needles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't care about the stuff you normally see in a toilet. I don't mind, but needles, it was like, whoa. And of course, there's all people all around Leif Erikson Park sitting around there, and I'm assuming making drug deals. This was last summer, last fall. It's like, sorry, these people do bring problems to the community, and people, I wish people were a little more concerned about getting these problems out of the community than they were about giving them free housing. They don't need free housing. Anything they get for free, they put it into drugs.
What I think is, I think Minneapolis is the best place for these guys. I mean, they're a big city. They have the resources. They have the people. Why aren't they the epicenter for a homelessness? If we have homeless people in Minnesota, they should be shipped there so that they can take care of them, because they're all about that. That the Minneapolis City Council, that's what they're about. So I think give them a ticket.
I would say Los Angeles, because then you don't have winter to deal with. They can stay outside year round.
It's true.
Get them out of the state.
I agree. All right, let's see. What else we got on the plate today? The bunch of convicts in Moose Lake are supporting U.S. veterans. That's another uplifting story. They're some of them are vets themselves, so they're doing some work, and they raised $600 to help veterans struggling across Minnesota. So that's good. I mean, they call them incarcerated people in the news. I don't know why, but they're convicts. They're in prison and they're doing good. So that's good for them. I got to shout out to the boys in Moose Lake. So good job. Let's see. And the last thing I want to talk about for Duluth, unless you have something else, Art or Dave, is that the tall ships are coming July 10th to the 13th. So anybody that doesn't know what the tall ships are, they're a bunch of older ships with big, tall masts. Hopefully they don't run into our bridge like they do in San Francisco. Yeah. But they're cool. They're really cool to see. So come down here and see if you can. That's it. That's all I have for Duluth. Anything else, Dave?
No, I think the big nose is in the state this week.
Art, anything else for Duluth? I'll just throw out really quick. We do have city council elections coming up. I don't know if you talked about that kind of politics here.
We have not talked about that, but yeah, we could talk about that. Yeah, tell us.
And of course, the school board elections are coming up, and rather than mentioning any names here, I'll keep that off, and we can talk about it and see if you want to bring up anything next time we got, because
it's important. It's important for people to know they're coming up and to start investigating the people you're going to elect.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times you think, wow, there's all this crazy stuff they're doing. Well, they're not hiding it. They're telling you what they're going to do, and you still vote for them. So it's your fault, not their fault. It's your fault. They're not you personally, Art.
Yeah, well, I'll just say one thing about it here. I'll be generic. The Democrat Socialists of America, we know they are basically running the city council right now. And they had some really weird statements about, remember that, the recent shooting here out in Washington, D.C. of Jewish people. Democrat Socialists of America do not condemn murder. I should have a quote here, but hey, they're in their backyard and they're running to the city council right now, and I think it's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
So be careful who you vote for. You should look into them and see who they're affiliated with. And if you want somebody that doesn't know what murder is,
they can't define a woman. How can they define a murder? Let's see. We got something. Now we're going to move on to the. Oh, I'm in charge of the banners. Oh God. I'm sorry. Which one is this?
So
Minnesota News. Minnesota News. There we go.
Yeah, it's Minnesota legislature news, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's not Minnesota Bills.
There were no bills this week.
So we got a special session with legislators still working out budget details. Date for special session remains unknown. So they're not in a special session yet.
No, because according to Tim Walz, I seen an interview with him, and Tim Walz said he's not going to call a special session until the committees that are working on the details get the details squared out. Then they'll introduce the bill, and then they'll come in for the day, vote on it, hopefully approve it, because he doesn't like to call a special session until everyone's in agreement. So he's going to wait till everyone agrees, then call a special session. They'll come in for the day, vote on it in the way he wants to vote, and then that'll be the end of it.
Wait, doesn't that mean they have to work for free?
It should be, but because they're not in session, that means it's not public notice.
Oh.
So the public can't watch.
Interesting. Art, give us some insight on this. You know this more than we do.
No, it's just weird. That's all I can say is I agree with you. I mean, it is weird.
No public notice. Interesting.
Yeah, so the public can't watch the meetings on what our legislators are doing behind closed doors. But there was a few things that I found interesting. One, layoff notices for state employees go out June 1st because they need 30 days. So if they don't have it signed by then they have to send out the notices, which is
That's Saturday,
not a big
right?
deal. That's just the notices.
No, Sunday.
And then July 1st is when they actually get laid off if they're not, if they didn't sign the budget bill. So then the state closes down. Okay, let's add one more thing into the fryer here, and is our little cat burglar who robbed her in-laws' house. Her court date is June 18th, the middle of the layoff period. So if the Republicans wanted to get some more leverage, they wait till after her trial, she gets convicted, she loses her job, then they get one more.
Interesting.
Now the Senate would that be a tie vote in the Senate?
Is it? Do you know? Art?
You know, Art? I don't know.
It's either-
It would be. Yeah, it would be a tie vote if she resigns, or I'm assuming she won't resign no matter what, because if they did resign, it's going to be a tie in the Senate. So she'll
What would
never resign. No matter what she did, she won't resign. I mean, hey, sorry, I'm being cynical here toward the DFL, but I think that's
not cynical. If she had pride, she would have done it already. So she's not going to do it anymore.
So that means the Republicans will have a tie in both the House and the Senate, giving them a lot more leverage.
That's great.
If they decide to actually use something.
Well, remember what would happen though, what the DFL did in the House, of course, they had that same situation, is it didn't show up. And then, there's no quorum, and the Minnesota Supreme Court agreed with the DFL interpretation of the Minnesota Constitution that there wasn't a quorum, therefore they can't conduct any business. So hey, that's.
But now they're on a July 1st scheduled shutdown of the state. Now, if they don't show up for work, so there's no quorum, the Republicans can easily just go point at the Democrats and say, "Now you caused all of this. You caused all the layoffs. You caused this problem and that other problem. Now get out. Now all of you can get out of office for the coming voting year."
That's a good point, Dave. I didn't think of that. If the Republicans should be able to use that to their advantage, because it puts the Democrats kind of over a barrel on this one, because I didn't know that they were gonna have to lay off or quit paying the state employees, and we know we got a lot of them. And let's hope that the Republicans can switch this around and blame the Democrats. The Democrats, of course, are going to blame the Republicans. Of course, they always do. And so the Republicans better better be prepared to say that, hey, you guys aren't even coming to work anymore. And let's sit down and have some kind of a compromise going on. It'd be nice.
Well, remember too, the Democrats' hill that they're trying to die on is we won't give up free medical and healthcare insurance for illegal aliens in the state. That's what they're going on. That's the thing. They're causing disruption. They're going after Waltz. I have a picture of a group that's out there protesting because they think that we, as American citizens, should be paying for healthcare for foreigners from another country that came in here illegally. And I don't understand where they're coming from. I don't get that at all.
Well, isn't that real similar to one of the other things? I think one of the other hills that DFL is dying on is that they're fighting, the Trump administration's ban on males playing in women's sports.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh? I mean, that's one of those 80-20 issues. 80% of the country thinks that males should not play in women's sports. But they're dying on that. I mean, Ellis brought the suit against the Trump administration. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, all I can say is that I hope people start realizing. I mean, there are so many people that are deathly scared of Trump. They'll sacrifice their girls' sports and women's sports to do this.
It's not really a Trump issue, though, right? I mean, it's a state issue. It's weird
right.
too, because back in probably the 70s, that's when we had all male sports and very few female sports, and then Title IX came in. And then we got the same number of female sports. The way it's going now with the infiltration of boys into the girls' sports, they're just going to fold it into one big sport. And then the males are going to dominate that again because they're faster and they're bigger for the most part. It's not 100%, but it's just biology. I mean, maybe not up till, I don't know, 7th grade. Up till then, it's all common. But after that, puberty hits, things just change.
I mean, that's the craziest thing. Even the DFL people that I know, they think that the whole thing is crazy, and the DFL is dying on that hill. Don't ask me why. I mean, this women should be up in arms over it, and a lot of them are, but not the DFL women. The white DFL women, hey, they're all for getting their male sons playing in the girls' sports.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
We've talked about it before too. It's the women that have to end this.
Yeah.
I can have an opinion about this and I can be against it. And if I had a daughter in school, I would definitely be fighting against it. But it's going to have to come up to the girls that play the sports and the mothers and the girls to stop playing against these guys and for them to come to their senses at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to take the leap. They're going to have to say, we as women, we as females are not going to play if there's males because some male calls himself a woman, and what kind of a joke is that? I mean, that's a pathetic joke. And they're
putting guys into female prisons, like rapists into female prisons where they rape the women that are in there.
It's the craziest thing imaginable.
It's like, am I on crazy pills? What's going on? I really do. I take a step back every once in a while and go, okay, what am I missing here? Well, I reassess it. I think about it. Okay, how are they thinking? How are they coming to this conclusion? I can't even get to step one on this. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, America is they're the kind of the last holdout. I'm sure you've read about the UK issue. Their Supreme Court ruled that the Scotland Gender Recognition Act was, I think, was unanimous on the UK Supreme Court that no, there's only two sexes, folks, and women are women and men are men, and you cannot mix the two. And I don't know what happened to Scotland. I used to think the Scots were kind of tough people and everything, but boy, they went off the Looney Tune end. But luckily, they got pulled back. And the same thing has happened in Sweden, Finland, all the Scandinavian countries are saying, hey, no, this doesn't make any sense, folks.
Is it the people or is it the leadership? I mean, honestly, here, the people I talk to are not for it, but the leadership seems to be. And I tell you, I'm not saying they're trying to destroy a country, but if you're going to, you wouldn't do anything differently.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another topic because we have a couple more things to go over. Feeding Our Future, that $250 million fraud. I love this picture, Wolf. The feds are now looking into it. So I'm surprised they hadn't looked into it sooner, but the feds are now looking into it. And I hope they take it all the way to the top. Who was the one in charge of the government? Who was the governor? And where was his oversight? And where did it go? All the way down, all the way up?
I mean, as far as I can see, the DFL in their trifecta, they have had no accountability whatsoever. I don't think they even changed the Secretary of Education. Have they? Isn't she still in there? The ones that were supposed to be overseeing it?
No, she's still in there. The same Secretary of for auditing, she's still in there. I don't remember her name, but the auditor, they should have gotten rid of her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's her responsibility. So they should be going after, Ellis, they should be going off after him, their
Yes.
Attorney General.
Yeah.
Because he was meeting with them and said he would defend them over the Board of Education, which is against the state constitution. And they got to see how much did Walz pocket out of this in kickbacks or campaign for him to completely ignore it. So
Yeah,
it's good the feds are getting.
There is no evidence right now that we know of that says he was involved with it at all. However, let's investigate that.
Yeah, it was on his watch.
Yeah, I mean, he is responsible. The Secretary of Education or the Commissioner, Minnesota called the Commissioner of Education. I mean, they may not have directed this fraud, but it was under their watch, and they did not do their duty.
Right.
And they should be removed. At least some of them should be removed. And Wall should be saying after, hey, somebody's got to be held responsible for this, because I'm assuming the taxpayers are not going to get that $250 million back, right?
Oh, no, it gets funneled out. It went to Sudan. It went to China. The people in charge made sure to funnel it out to places they couldn't get it back from. The one guy they put in jail now for it, they caught him on going to the airport to leave the country to go get his money. And they caught him at the airport, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, the state of Minnesota's failing that. I mean, they are negligent, clearly negligent.
Right. And honestly, everybody I'm seeing with names is all Somali names. So how did they get put in charge from the Department of Education? How did they get put in charge of all this money? They just have another woman sentenced to 51 months, Sarah Nur, 63, ordered to repay $5 million. But they're talking about, they're tying together $10 to $16 million to this person. So $5 million is a third of it. There's another woman here, Hebo Dar, and it's another person that's involved with it. It's craziness. And it's almost like, was it because of fraud, or was it because they were trying to make a point, or do they feel guilt? How did these people sucker these intelligent Department of Education people into being able to spend money on an address that had no house on it at all? But they're funneling money to it. No oversight.
Well, obviously, you're being facetious, Sean. I mean, these people are obviously not intelligent. And, even though they have their PhDs, there's something that was missing there. Now, who was the lady? She was a white lady who was in charge of this. She was a ringleader. I forget her name. She's in jail now, I think. But
I thought it was a guy that was the ringleader. I thought that was.
There's a white female who was in charge, and then a Somali male. That those two got together and ran the whole thing. Here it is. Here, Amy Bach, the ringleader, and her co-conspirator Salim Saad were found guilty by jury in March on multiple counts of including conspiracy, bribery, and wire fraud. And following a weeks-long trial, both are in custody.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the actual videos of her. There's videos when at this, whatever this Feeding Our Future, they're with some kind of a board or community organization. And she's sitting up there with this real sincere person, and she's out there We got to get money. We got to help out the community. I mean, she sounds like somebody from Chums. Sorry. But so that whole organization, and she obviously, this lady anyway, she was certainly one of the ringleaders, and she obviously had experience in nonprofits. She knew how to get money, how to get government money, and boy, did she do it. And,
Right.
and I think the Somali population, I suppose it's not fair to give them a free pass here, but they are new members of our country. They don't know how things work. They came from obviously a country where there's a lot of graft and corruption, and they didn't know any different. And you have this white lady sitting up there who knows the ins and outs, ran lots of nonprofit organizations, and boy, she knew how to take that money, and she got the community to buy into it. So, I put the blame on her. I think she only got few years in prison. She should have got 20 years in prison.
Yeah, they should get life in prison for this.
Yeah.
It's a fraud of education, money for COVID patients, people that were first responders didn't get the money, people that needed it, and that's our money. They stole from all of us. They should be paying a heavier price than 50 months or 5 million.
I'll go out on a limb here and say, since the main people that I'll say a victim of this were the people from Somalia, the Somali community. And I would say this woman created a hate crime against these people. I mean, she used them to get all this money, and it makes their community look bad. And,
oh yeah,
and then that is not right. Lots of reasons she should be sitting in jail for the rest of her life.
right. All right, I want to move on. I want to talk about this because it's near and dear to my heart. Republicans are working to end federal funding for 3 Minnesota rail projects. So I've been railing against this railing against it like that.
Get it?
Going from Minneapolis
That's
to
a bad
Duluth.
pun.
Yeah. So there's this rail system they wanted to put between Minneapolis and Duluth using pre-existing lines. There's already trains on it, but it needed $1 billion, $1 billion with a B dollars to fix it up. And the state had promised $200 million of it, and the federal government was promising $800 million to it. And there was a whole lot of stuff that maybe they already passed deadlines for this, where the federal funding wasn't coming. When Trump took over, I said, it's dead. That thing is dead. They're not going to get the $800 million. So in the last session, or just recently when they're talking about the budget, they said, well, we're going to take $77 million out of the $200 million that we allocated to it. And we're going to put that towards all the mandates we put on the schools. And that'll pay for it for a year. And they said, well, how can you take $77 million out? Doesn't that kill the rail price? No, I think they'll be okay. No follow-up question was, well, why did it have that extra $77 million in it to begin with? That's not nothing. That's walking around money.
Yeah. That's stuff in my other pants. That's in my other pants.
And we talked about, last week we talked about this. The rail system from Minneapolis up north, it cost them, I'm going to have this wrong now. It was like $3 million to run it, and they got it's more than that. It was like 13 million, and they got $300,000 in ticket sales. It was so.
It was now I remember what you're talking about. The expense for the rail line going up towards Becker and up towards St. Cloud. It cost them $11.8 million to operate.
Yeah, they
got $365,000 in fares. So that's, over $11 million loss to run that rail up towards St. Cloud.
Oh man,
this is a case, I think, a typical case where government bureaucrats and some politicians, they just lie and lie and lie. They don't care if what they say makes any sense. All they want to do is get money. And where's that money going? We don't know. And this is obviously a typical, I would think be a good uh, place to investigate for waste, fraud, and abuse. And you can't get politicians on; they'll just keep lying as they do.
Right.
And the bureaucrats will keep lying on it. They say, "Oh well, hey, we did $77 million. Well, it isn't going to hurt anything." These people are obviously just lying.
Yeah.
And I don't know the pros and cons on that. All I know is that if there was a demand for it, industry would have done it a long time ago. Why does the government have to go in there and fit the bill for something that if there was a demand for a rail system from Minneapolis to Duluth, it would have been built a long time ago, or else we had all kinds of rail systems up to 20 years ago, and they all went away because nobody wants to sit on the train and go up once a week. They want to hop in their car and go down to Minneapolis and come up here. It's a 2.5 hour drive. That's a piece of cake.
It's a 2.5 hour train ride, they were saying. They said it will cost you $35. I can already take a bus down for $35. There's no benefit to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fly out of Minneapolis a lot, and we got there's 2 bus companies that go down there, and it costs you whatever it was, $45 to take a bus down to Minneapolis, or there's the small buses. Hey, it works out really good. I take it a lot. They're making money, obviously, and we don't need a train system. So I can set the train system will come in Minneapolis once a day. And my airport, I'm going to sit in the airport for 18 hours and wait for my plane to go after I get down there on a train. There's a reason people don't take trains in America.
Right. Well, and then if somebody has a heart attack on a bus, they can pull off at the next city and drop off at the hospital. There's no pulling off on a train. You're going to where you're going. There's stops along the way, but if there's something that goes wrong with it, and this would be sharing a commuter train rail with a business train. So who wins in that decision when I have to have this train going on this track right now? Does the commuter train win, or does the business who owns the track win? Well, the business will own. And if they derail, that train is done for a day at least.
At least, yeah.
So
it takes a while to rebuild rail tracks.
So one of the things I ran on last year was stopping the funding for this. And I am just so pleased to see that this won't happen. Now, I would probably take a train. Maybe I probably would have taken it yesterday when I went up to the Twin Cities, but I don't think I should make my neighbors and myself pay for it if they're never going to take it. And like you said, if this was business wise, somebody would have done it. If a business won't do it, the state has no business doing it themselves, unless there's a compelling reason.
Well, I think that brings up a thing, and I'll go out on a limb here again. But why is this being promoted? What's the real reason for promoting this? I would say I think the reason is, and maybe this is official, I don't know, but this is a green agenda that personal vehicles are bad. We should not be driving cars. We're using fossil fuels, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. So what are we going to do then? Oh, we have to have electric cars. That's another topic. And we have to get everybody sitting on buses and trains. And, again, I'm an engineer here, and I used to do a lot of energy analysis. And it would be fun to actually do a real energy analysis on the Duluth transit system here to see how many BTUs per mile is that actually costing compared to somebody driving their car. Mm-hmm. The same thing should be done, but how many BTUs per passenger are going to get down to Minneapolis versus just somebody hopping in their car and driving down there.
Right.
And in most cases, you're going to find out that this mass transit systems in America are not cost effective, nor are they energy effective. And it's being promoted because from people that don't know anything about energy are promoting this mass transit system. They want people to stop using their vehicles. And that's just one more little chunk in the wall they can do to get rid of personal vehicles and to getting rid of personal freedom. Cars, we have cars because we like the freedom of having a car.
Right.
And hey, the Democrat Socialists of America, they do not like that, nor does the DFL.
They want 15 minutes.
Hey, sorry to go on a soapbox here, but I think that has to be really brought up. And of course, they're going to deny that. Of course, oh no, we're doing it for different reasons. Well, no.
Their grand plan is 15-minute cities. They want to keep you locked into a certain place and you can't go outside the boundaries. They were trying desperately to do that in England and it failed there.
Yeah.
For now. It'll be back. But they're going to try to do that here at some point. But we're too big. This country is too big and we have too much open area to make that feasible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here we're.
One thing that he shut off the environmental mandates that California did, so banning all gas-powered cars by 2035.
Good.
And obviously California is going to sue them for that, but at least we have someone in as the president sees how ridiculous that is,
right?
And it's not useful to the American public. He shut it off.
Good.
Well, it's the same thing that all my DFL friends, you tell them about we talked about the males and female sports, and the whole feeding our future, fraud. Well, if you tell them that, hey, you're going to get rid of your car as Walsh wants to get rid of your car, by when does Walsh want to do it? By 2035 and 10 years? He wants to get rid of your internal combustion engine. And you tell people that, and they say, huh? Over my dead body, they're going to do that. And these are solid, staunch DFLers that are saying this. And they know all we got to do is read Walsh's stuff. And, it's like we have to have somebody there. These are the main ticket items. Like, why should government, they don't even know what a kilowatt hour is. Not to mention how much carbon footprint comes out of a gallon of gasoline. If they don't know any of that, why are if they can't run their own life, I'll be damned if they don't run mine. That's a little song by Jonathan Edwards.
That reminds me of somebody saying, people that don't know how to pay back their student debt are now experts at tariffs. That's kind of the same thing, I look at somebody that telling me how I got to live my life, and I'm looking at them like, I don't even know how you get out of bed in the morning. I mean, a shower would be nice.
Unfortunately, we keep giving them money. I don't know. It is sad. So, everybody, I'm going to have to go. I'm at an hour here, and I got to run to another meeting.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming, Art.
Nice to see you,
it was good. We didn't get to talk about sailing or anything. We talked about the big ship, but hey, we'll talk about sailing. And as fun as usual here. I hope I contributed something, and I'll try to do a little more study than you guys did this time. Like, you have more intelligent conversation.
All right. Well, have a good night. All right.
One other thing that Trump did is he removed all the environmental mandates that Biden said we're going to get rid of air conditioners.
Oh God, yes.
Trump got rid of that. There was hot water heaters. He was going to get rid of the new mandates on that. Gas-powered stoves. He was going to get
gas-powered everything.
Yeah, gas-powered anything. So if you like to cook with gas, which is so much nicer than electric. He got rid of all those mandates.
Well, they took care of all that. They were trying to funnel us into one set of energy, which is electricity.
Yeah.
And only 2 or 3 ways to produce that energy: solar, wind, and hydro.
Yeah.
And it's just a disaster waiting to happen. When my power goes out, I like to go to my brother's house when he had propane, let's say, or somebody I know will have propane, or somebody will have gas. Or if my electric goes out, my gas still works, I can use that.
Yeah.
If my gas goes out, my electric still works, I can use that. Or I got a fireplace. They wanted to ban fireplaces. I mean, honest to God, they're trying to funnel you into a place so that you have no options.
Yeah.
And electricity is the easiest for them to regulate because they can just take it away from you like that.
Yeah, and even Wisconsin, I got a notice from Wisconsin, SB 184 in Wisconsin is a bill to protect consumers' choice on what type of engine we feel is appropriate for our new vehicle device based on our own research and budget.
Very nice.
So they're, even in Wisconsin, they're trying to pull off the same dumb
Mandates.
Mandate says, you stay out of it. You don't know what you're talking about.
All right. I'm going to go on to a different subject here. I want to show you the people that were protesting Governor Walz because they don't like the fact, if I can make it better, they don't like the fact that they want to take away free medical care for illegal aliens. And I'm noticing a pattern for the protesters that I see. I don't know if you can see them or not. These young to middle-aged white women are the ones with these professionally made signs out there protesting. There's one guy that looks like he's just ready to kill himself.
His wife made him show up.
Pretty much. And there was 30 people gathered outside, and they did a news article on it.
Yeah, because it's part of their agenda.
So it's just, oops, I don't want to do that. cut the show done. So let's move on. I think we're at an hour into the show, so we're going to kind of speed through a few more things now. Try to keep it at about an hour and a half. But talking about that budget, talking about the illegal immigrants on here, it says Minnesota Care currently covers roughly 20,000 illegal aliens, 24% of whom are children. I don't know why they had to point out how many are children, but it's because it's
emotion.
Gets you emotion.
But the part of the budget agreement was the children stay on. So
right.
We're not going to get rid of all of the problem. We're going to get a 76% of the problem.
So this budget bill is one of the several that leaders are continuing to negotiate behind closed doors before calling a special session. So you called it, right? Pablo Tapina, an auto body technician from Blaine, said at the protest that the budget is a moral document, not a political document, and that politicians need to humanize the issue of undocumented health care more. That's the problem. It is not a moral document.
No. So if he was, I read another part of what he said was, if he gets sick and has to have an operation, that he has to pay for it.
Oh no.
You mean like everybody else?
Well, maybe at his country, they pay for it. They're socialists.
Yeah.
And maybe he should go back to his country and get that operation.
Yeah. And why should we be paying for when he's never put anything towards our society?
Right.
So
and so you get if you have this position, you get this handle that you don't have any compassion for people. You don't care about people. That's not true. Yeah, I know some of the most conservative people in the world are most generous, but they want to pick and choose who they're generous to. They want to focus their money on their family mostly or causes that they care about.
Correct.
I don't like my money going to these causes because I don't believe in them. But the government taking your money is at a gunpoint, right? It's not charity. It is mandated. That is fascism right there.
Yeah. And that's where our Democrats are going with all this.
We got a news story here that lawyers for the DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell, who you called the cat burglar.
Yep.
Cat lady.
Cat lady.
She accuses her prosecutors of vindictiveness in the burglar case because they added a second felony charge shortly after her trial was postponed. So apparently she shouldn't be facing consequences.
Kind of the way it seems like it.
But it's me. Don't you understand? I'm a government official.
Yeah, I got elected, therefore I'm special.
Yeah, you can't throw me in jail. Let's see. More Minnesota news. Planned Parenthood is closing 8 locations in Iowa and Minnesota, citing funding cuts and pro-life laws. A lot of people are going to be happy about this. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't have a stance on this very much. I would like if Planned Parenthood was what they say they was for family planning, and they left the abortions out of it and helped people plan for families or plan for adoptions and did the whole package.
Yeah.
That would be one thing, but they seem to be geared towards one thing. And, so if they're citing pro-life laws as being the reason they're closing, well, what other services were you providing?
And Minnesota doesn't have any pro-life laws. The trifecta got rid of.
That's right.
Even after birth,
Right.
The doctors can't help a baby.
Yeah.
They got to let the baby die.
So yeah, but
So
they're
how is that-
blaming those laws
Yeah,
as citing that for reasons of closing. You're right. There is no law in Minnesota for that.
yeah. Minnesota's do whatever you want. Well, hey, if you're out from another state, we'll help you out. You like killing babies? Yeah, come on over here.
Yeah, so they're closing the following in Minnesota: in Alexandria, in Apple Valley, Bemidji, and Richfield. And these are Planned Parenthood operations, but they're called Alexandria Health Center, Apple Valley Health Center. I don't know how you call that a health center. Why don't you just call it what it is?
Yeah.
Alexandria Abortion Clinic. That's what it is. Why are you afraid of that?
And then when I worked in St. Paul, it didn't say anything about a health center on there. It said Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
It didn't say health center. I don't know where
Right.
they're getting these from.
Exactly. That's what that's what it should say.
This is back to the media picking sides and trying to create emotion.
Right. And wordsmithing things.
Correct.
Let's see. The Supreme Court has tossed a ruling against a Minneapolis police officer in George Floyd riot case. So apparently this, I don't know if you read this article, but this officer was out there and during the riots, and he used less than lethal methods to control the crowd. So he tried to form a perimeter. There was a victim, and there was an aggressive mob. And when an individual attempted to break through the perimeter, the officer, including shoving a fellow officer and grabbing his baton, Officer Bauer used less lethal rounds to repel him, defend his fellow officers, ensure the young woman could escape the mob and receive medical treatment. And for that, they threw him in jail.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court has tossed that ruling against the Minneapolis officer. And this is, but they have the gall to say, I don't know why our recruitment is down for Minneapolis police.
Yeah.
It's almost like, again, am I on crazy pills? You obviously understand why they don't want to come. You've created this, you've created the environment for them not to come. Why do you actually say you don't know why they don't want to come? I mean, I understand why you're doing all this stuff, but then to act like you're not doing it, that's insulting.
Correct. And that's the federal government got rid of the decree for police departments, mostly in Minneapolis, which basically made the police the victims, put them at a really bad position, and they said they're dropping out. However, Minneapolis Mayor Small Fry, he said they were going to still abide by it, even
Right.
though the feds had completely pulled out of it.
Right.
Because he doesn't like a safe community. He wants the police to be basically sitting ducks.
Yeah.
And, like we've discussed in a previous episode or previous podcast, they're still 300 short of what they're supposed to be.
Right.
Based on this mandate, and they're not following it. So
Yeah.
how come they're not in jail, or there's no repercussions for them?
Right. So what happens with the cops? They have to work double shifts or extra shifts. They're in stressful situations to begin with all the time.
Yeah.
So working more hours under that frays your nerves and can cause you to, have rash decisions or temperament problems.
Yeah.
So you need time off. So you need more police officers, not less, and it costs a lot of money to get police officers. But add all that together, and then the police unions will endorse a Democrat. And I don't understand that at all. I absolutely cannot get that myself. Tina Smith, Senator Tina Smith, who's on her, she's running out the clock at this point, thank God. She slams Trump's one big, beautiful budget bill. So of course, what she said, but there's nothing beautiful about this. That's just, that's lazy.
Wow.
That's a lazy
That's-
writing.
yeah.
Get better writers.
Get better writers, yeah.
But she complains about it that it's reducing money to Medicare, but I think that's because they're getting rid of the illegal immigrants that are on it.
Correct.
And she really didn't say much. She talked a lot, but she didn't say what was wrong with the bill or how she'd do it differently or how she'd fix the problems.
Well, that's why she's not running for office anymore, is because she doesn't have an answer for it. She just knows it's Trump. Trump is bad, so therefore,
Right.
we have to go after everything that
Anything says.
that he says. That's
Right.
why our attorney general has sued Trump 23 times in the past 120 days.
So he's been sued more than any other president, all the other presidents combined, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So Tina Smith doesn't like it. Tom Emmer does. Tina Smith's out the door. I don't think it matters much what she says anymore.
You can reduce it because Doge and Elon Musk have found enough fraud in there to be able to reduce it without reducing, everyone's what they actually get for it.
Right. Yeah. So they can reduce the budget, but they're not losing anything because the people that are citizens that need it, nothing impacts them.
Correct.
I don't particularly like big bills like that, but
Right.
push something through. My God. I don't know if you saw this. These two gentlemen were sentenced to, I believe the one on the left got sentenced to 10 years and the one on the right is 6.5. It's either that or vice versa, because I don't know which one is which.
Yeah.
There was a Indian family that was trying to come into the country, and I believe they were coming in illegally.
From the north border, not the south.
Right, from Canada. And these two guys were facilitating it and left them alone in sub-zero temperature. And I'm going to show you this beautiful family too. Nope. This one? Yeah, I'll show you the article. Look at this family. I mean, I understand they're trying to come in illegally, but they don't deserve to die by freezing to death. They don't deserve to die at all.
Right.
But look at this cute family.
Right.
I mean, you want emotion, man. Look at these guys. And they were left there to die by these two men, and the two men are they got 10 years for 4 deaths. The one. 6.5 for the other.
Should have been a minimum of 10 per person.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they should be, well, I'm thinking it's like 25 per person at least.
At least.
What's your life worth at that point? You're telling me that each one of these people is 2.5 years? Or for the other guy, like a year and a half?
Well, I mean, that's what Hennepin Attorney General Mary Moriarty, we discussed her.
Oh God.
Two guys shot this one lady 6 times, and each one of them got 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years for point blank shooting someone first degree.
It's unbelievable.
No wonder crime is, if there's no punishment for your crimes, then,
Oh, exactly.
what do you expect?
Right. All right. That's it for Minnesota. You got anything else?
No, I think I added everything I could on that one.
All right. Let's run through some national news here. There's an article here. I think this is what Art sent me.
Okay.
I don't think this is yours. And it was a question. What if we abolished all tax exemptions for nonprofits? We're talking about Harvard and getting rid of them. I think that's a fine idea.
Yeah, I think we've already agreed on this on previous.
Yeah.
If you want to be, because we talked about the Second Harvest food shelf,
Right.
where she was making $721,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
The ASPCA, the animal thing, he was making $950,000 a year, and that's a nonprofit.
Right.
So it's a very simple. If you want to make that kind of money, then you're a profit.
Yeah. And if you're a nonprofit, it's going to be not worth your while to do it. So it's going to be volunteerism. You're going to be a CEO of a nonprofit. You can expect to make probably what a janitor makes.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
make it so it's not a money making scheme.
Yeah, make sure that a nonprofit is true nonprofit, and that's what I put that the article in right below that about the Harvard professor that was just fired for falsifying all of her thesis in her books.
Oh yeah, but she was wasn't her specialty fraud?
Yeah, and her specialty was fraud, but she was the one that was lying.
Yeah.
But she was making $1 million a year. So why is the federal government giving Harvard $2 billion a year,
Right?
And she's going to make $1 million a year? That's on a nonprofit. That's ridiculous.
Right. Why does Harvard get any money when they have what
$40 billion in
an endowment? Yeah, $40 billion just sitting there. Yeah.
So yes, completely. The median income for Minnesota is $56,000. That's what the CEO of a nonprofit should make.
Yes.
It's not that difficult.
It seems to be if you're trying to funnel money to yourself.
I guess if you pay off the right politician, then that's all that matters.
Let's see. NPR sues the executive branch over withdrawal of federal funding. So NPR, National Public Radio, has sued the federal government because they want their money. And they think, and I think this was a great quote, it's not always obvious when the government has acted with a retaliatory purpose in violation of the First Amendment, but this wolf comes as a wolf. That was from the brief. I don't know how it violates the First Amendment to not fund an organization.
Especially when an organization no longer is doing what it was originally set up to do.
Right. It kind of outlived its purpose, right?
Yeah, because NPR used to be, they wanted a public radio to give public warnings, like weather warnings, if a tornado was coming, instructions if there was an emergency. That's what NPR was set up to do.
Mm-hmm.
If they're talking politics all the time, guess what?
Right.
That's not what they were doing.
That's right. They had no opinion about politics. But if you ever listen to an NPR article, they say they're not biased. Oh my God.
Yeah. I
can't even get through one of the news articles usually. It's just so blatantly false.
Right.
So on a wholly different subject, all of a sudden, these guys are saying, what happened? Joe Biden was mentally not fit and we had no idea.
Yeah.
How could we miss this? And you know what the whole reason for that is? Is so they can do this. So they can go after Trump. So now they've just, after 4 years of us screaming it, we were talking about this before he even ran,
Correct.
That he is mentally declined. And they were doing all sorts of, I heard all excuses. Oh, he stutters. He suddenly got a stutter. This man has had 2 strokes and 2 brain surgeries. And he's in his 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against people in their 80s, but that's a lot of mileage on your brain. And you could see it happening. He's freezing up. He's wandering off. He can't finish sentences. And they don't bring it up. But now, all of a sudden, well, I was saying it the whole time, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody didn't listen to it. And we were being fooled by the White House. They were lying to us. This is why. So they can come up with this news article that, so they can go after Trump. And them trying to say that Trump is going through a mental, this guy is sharper than every one of them. Yeah. And you can see it in every interview he does, because he does interviews for like 7 hours a day. Yeah. And then he works another 6 hours on other stuff. So for them to say he's not.
And he burns the daylights out of the reporters.
Yeah.
They say something stupid and he catches them every single time on it. So he's not even close to where Biden was.
Yeah, and if you listen to his stories and actually just pay attention to what he's trying to say, he's making a point. Yeah. He is telling a point. It's not like a Biden ramble where he calls somebody a dog-faced pony soldier, and you're left there sitting there. What are you talking about? It's in the John Wayne movie. Never heard that in the John Wayne movie.
Yeah, even Google with AI couldn't figure that out.
Just, but it's obvious. It's obvious what they're trying to do. They're
Right.
trying to say this now so that they can go after Trump and say he is, not mentally fit. And the people saying that too, Whoopi Goldberg?
Well,
Whoopi Goldberg saying somebody's not mentally fit?
well, even Jake Tapper came out with this book
Oh,
that basically admitted that he knew prior to the election that Biden was mentally incompetent.
right. But he's not saying anything.
But he's not saying anything. Yeah. So he didn't say anything when he should have.
I'm getting real-time texts from our viewer.
Really? That's what the comments.
That's what the comments are for, lady.
Yes.
I'd have her on the show. I'd have pull her in. Let's see. So yes, Jake Trapper.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, he's got no standing. And then for them to try to say that they knew about this, well, you didn't say anything about it, and you actively declined it, and you actually argued against it. Oh my God.
Yeah. And now you have a book out trying, so we don't believe you anymore, Jake Tapper. Sorry.
Right. Oh, and I want to bring up an article here. This is the guy that was the head of the FBI, Comey.
Yep.
The one that went after Trump, but he's not biased at all. But let me just play you a little thing of what he thinks. So I'm going to pull this up and then I'll share it. This is on X. It just takes a second to load up. All right, so let me share it. This one? This one. Okay. Hopefully people can hear it. I use you as a test to see if people can actually hear this stuff.
Do you think one of the things that is happening now is that the Trump administration is, of course, testing the system in ways it hasn't been tested before. In the law enforcement sense, do you think there are laws that should be put in place that would help better manage this that aren't in place now? I mean, are we equipped? Is the law enforcement system and the legal system equipped to deal with what we're seeing now?
Probably there could be changes at the margins, but in the main, we have the tools. There are cultural impediments to doing this work. Let's say you work in the FBI. You know that one of the two political parties is, let me put it nicely, white supremacist adjacent at a minimum. And so why would you want to throw your career on that side of the line and be summoned to Capitol Hill to be asked, why are you pursuing these innocent groups? And so we have a cultural impediment to working it effectively that should get more attention than it.
Does anybody watch that and think, yeah, that makes sense? He clearly thinks that conservatives are white supremacists.
Yeah.
And so he's going in with that bias. That guy was a disaster. He was put in place to go after Trump only. He failed at that, and I hope they go after him for all the stuff he did. I just heard something, I think Dan Bonjonio said they found a bunch of cases that it was a bunch of secret stuff. So they're going to come out with that. Hopefully this guy is prosecuted as much as he prosecuted innocent people.
Yeah, because Trump just pardoned two people for tax evasion in Georgia. For basically, he was a big Trump supporter. So when they found him guilty, they gave him him and his wife, they got 20 years combined.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that show?
No, it just seems really ridiculous to me. But
yeah.
They've got combined, they got 20 years when Biden's kid didn't get any. And you start going through the list who didn't get for tax evasion. So they spent, I think 4 or 5 years in jail, and Trump got him out.
Right. There definitely was a lot of lawfare going on with Biden, and people who say that's not true, you have to look at it. Try to look at it without a bias and see what they were doing. You can't deny that they went after people because they didn't like them because they were conservatives.
Yeah.
That and Trump alone, they're changing laws so they could go after him, so they could disqualify him for running for president again. And you can see that. You can see it happening. People were predicting it while it was happening. It was happening.
Yeah.
You got to see this. Let's see. Department of Energy gave 93 billion in loans. $93 billion in loans from the day that Donald Trump was elected until he was sworn in, 77 days. They gave out $93 billion in loans during that time. Some of them, they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a way to pay it back. They just gave them talk about a money flushing scheme that was.
Yeah, and that's fraud right there, and that should be Pam Bondi's job to put her in jail.
Yeah.
Who gave up that money?
Yes, absolutely. People in charge should be put in jail for that.
And until we start seeing people in jail, we haven't really changed anything.
Right.
You know, yeah, Elon Musk found all this waste. Okay. Now we have to get rid of the people who signed off on it.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that are saying, I want to see people in handcuffs for this.
Yep.
You know, that's when you're going to start seeing change. But you're right. Until that happens, we're on the clock is ticking. And, you know, midterms are coming up. And if they get back into power for whatever reason, nothing will happen and it'll just continue.
Correct.
So then you got to ask yourself, well, why do we do this work to try to save money and everything? Why don't you just blow it out? This is what they seem to want.
Right.
This whole country will go down in flames. But, you know, what is the point of trying to, you know, plug this hole when these guys are chiseling at the hull over here? You know, it doesn't do any good. You've got to stop those guys.
Right.
Then fix the problem. Let's see. There was a Christian prayer rally in Seattle that was attacked by the violent left.
Yeah.
A woke mob. And then the mayor of Seattle came out and blamed the Christian group.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was
Blame the victim.
disgusting.
Blame the victim.
Yeah. They had the Christian group had a permit to be where they were. Everything was fine until the people who weren't invited and didn't have the authority to be there, and they were all in mass, so no one could see who they were.
Right.
So they don't even believe in their own cause; they're just there for violence.
Right.
They showed up, and you know. So, you know, if you're going on vacation, make sure you stay out of Washington State.
No kidding. Not unless you like these protests. I'm going to show you a group. You ever hear of the Patriot Front?
I've heard of the Patriot Boys.
Yeah, this probably the same group. So apparently they are. What's going on here? 1 second. So there's a lot of talk about these guys being feds. I don't see the screen I want. There it is. So I'm going to show you this video real quick. So they all wear the same uniforms or outfits.
Yeah.
They all have masks on. And it's been widely talked about that these guys are just a federal group, like federal officers, who just cause chaos. But so let me tell you, as a conservative, I think these guys are idiots. I don't believe that anything they stand for is right. If they're white supremacists, I think they're morons. If they're anti-government, they're still morons.
Yeah.
So Patriot Group, Patriot Boys, whatever they're called. I don't believe them. I think they're instigators. I think they're made to try to make us look bad.
Yeah, I think they're basically Antifa.
Right.
Dressed as something that they're not, just to prove a point. You know, they should stick to doing their boy band things.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Whatever you do whatever you do, but stay out of places. I'm not going to play this whole video, but California is not even hiding it anymore. They now want illegal aliens. In addition to being police officers and elected officials, they want to allow them to serve on election recount boards. They're not hiding it. You know what they want now, right? They want these guys in place. They want to take over California. I'm starting to think Lex Luthor had the right idea in the Superman movie. Nuke the San Andreas Fault. Flies into the ocean. Got a whole bunch of new beach property.
Yeah. Yeah, start buying frontage on the opposite side of the.
That's what he did. It was a compelling argument.
Yeah. Which is exactly the same argument for global warming, because Obama and Biden, who put all these climate control mandates in, they both have beach properties.
Oh, they have a couple beach properties.
Yeah, so if they thought the water was going to rise and flood their house, they wouldn't be buying on the beach.
That's correct. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Elizabeth Warren trying to be the stupidest politician, and she's got a lot of competition.
Yeah.
I skipped over the Jasmine Crockett thing because I just can't deal with her anymore. But Elon Musk talks about his scheduled time as special government employee comes to an end. He'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. Elizabeth Warren, good riddance. But Musk isn't off the hook for his chaos and corruption. We must hold him accountable. His corruption is saving us money.
Yeah. What corruption did he? Please explain, Pocahontas, what corruption he did. Just because he stopped your money from coming in the back door. Did we talk about the Pelosi bill last week?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah,
The Pelosi bill would stop her from making money too. So
I've watched Elizabeth Warren. I've listened to her. I cannot tell you why she has a job at all.
Yeah. How did she get elected? I mean, there's proof of voter fraud right there.
Right. But I told you she's got competition.
Yeah.
Jerry Nadler. Here we go. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse. Here's Jerry talking. 30 seconds. There's so much to unwind in this 30 seconds.
Besides his mental incapacities.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this guy's a weeblo to begin with. But so you don't ship people into your country to pick vegetables.
No.
There are machines that have been built to pick vegetables, by the way. And that is not a compelling reason to have immigrants come in. Also, explain to me why a reduced population is a bad thing when you're talking about global warming and global population being a problem.
Yeah.
And it's all a tax system now. You know, we can't tax you. We can't tax these people enough anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe as a senior citizen, I'll go pick fruit and then I can eat and the fruit won't rot in the ground.
But isn't that very racist, just saying that we need Mexicans just to pick our cut?
Well, he didn't say the race. So he didn't say we need Hispanics here because they'll rot in the ground. Because we could be pulling in these South African farmers to do this. I mean, it seems to be what they'd be good at, right? But I think we have other options.
Yeah. Yeah, I think John Deere would disagree with that. Yeah.
Speaking of South Africa, I might as well just jump ahead one more job here. So you remember when Trump had the president of South Africa in and he was like, you know, you guys are going against the white farmers. And he's like, no. And then Trump dimmed the lights and showed him video of it. This guy goes back and Let me just, I'll try to put this up before ads start popping all over the place. South Africa's EFF leader leads chant of shoot to kill the boar, the farmer. But the media leads insist this is not happening. But it is over and over again.
Yeah.
Kill the farmer, kill the boar. So there you go.
Well, he's not going to win on The Voice. I can tell you that.
Well, it's more the message
Oh, yeah.
than the voice.
Yeah, and who was complaining that Trump wasn't on top of things?
Right. Yeah. So a few years ago, Australia banned guns, banned weapons.
Yep.
And that fixes, all
I want to be absolutely clear.
the issues, right? Once you ban the guns, the
are the
violence,
problem. Yeah.
violence goes away, doesn't it? Well, so we started running into another problem. So let me just play this video. I believe it's a minute here. And here is Australia's, I think. All right, so I just got a message saying the volume wasn't working on that.
Okay.
But essentially, it comes down to they're banning machetes.
Well, what's a machete?
I don't know. I know what a knife is because I watch Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, so they're trying to ban assault weapons. Well, what's an assault weapon versus a gun? Well, what's a machete versus a knife?
It's an assault knife.
It's an assault knife. Okay, they're just gonna ban assault knives.
So then it'll be kitchen knives. And then it'll be smaller knives until you don't have any knives. And then they'll beat you with a club and they'll ban that. I mean, it doesn't end. It
Right.
doesn't end. People have been killing other people for hundreds and thousands of years. They find a way.
Yeah, and actually, Australia has a higher violent crime rate than America does, even though they have no guns.
Right.
It's because they're, they basically got rid of self-defense.
Right. Yeah. An easy form of self-defense.
Very easy.
So a guy running around with a machete in Texas probably isn't going to last very long.
Right.
Because you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And the people, I remember when in Minneapolis, when they were loosening up the concealed carry stuff. Do you remember this?
Not really.
They said literally blood will be flowing in the streets. They said that. And you know what happened? Nothing changed because the people who get the permits aren't the ones causing the problems. The people causing the problems already had the guns and they were causing the problems. So it didn't really change at all.
Yeah, they broke the law by having a gun in the first place. I think they're going to all of a sudden,
Right.
oh, well, there's a law now.
I can't have a gun?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Doesn't
It's
work
ridiculous.
like that.
Yeah, it's
All right.
not exactly sure what part of Never Neverland they live in, but
Right. All right. I am going to end there unless you have something else.
no, the only thing that I found that was interesting, but it hasn't gotten anywhere yet, but this would be in your bills. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration wants to mandate all new vehicles in the U.S. that coming in the US have drunk driving built into the car.
Isn't that a violation of our privacy?
Well, that's why it's only in the first. Obviously, something like that is never going to get through Trump, but it just tells you where our politicians and our unelected people in the NTSA are with where they're trying to go with this stuff. And your bill would be if you're not an elected official, you can't make a law.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
So, like the MPCA or the EPA,
Oh yeah,
they just create rules, and that actually is basically a law.
I thought the Supreme Court stripped them of that. Like the Supreme Court ruled that they can't make these mandates.
Well, hopefully that's more than I know, but that's the way it should be. So this NHTSA board should not be able to make a law that everyone else has to follow.
I agree.
So, but I thought that was, we'll have to wait and see when that gets gets farther and see what happens. But that's something we're going to watch in the future.
All right. Let's we're at 141, so let's wrap it up here with health and fitness. This is close to me because I have people in my family who love Skittles. Absolutely love Skittles. They got bags of Skittles, right? And I don't mind them, but I usually eat stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Skittles had something called titanium dioxide in them. And I've been warning people in my family and my family out in Hawaii about titanium dioxide. It's a whitener. It's a neomicro element. It's very small. It doesn't go away. They use it in paint to make paint whiter. They also use it in food products to make the food products look better. And they are now, Skittles is not going to have titanium dioxide anymore because of Robert F. Kennedy and Donald Trump getting in place, trying to make people healthier. And I can't be happier about that because that is something that Tic Tacs, titanium dioxide.
Oh, yeah.
So good news, if you like big bags of Skittles, like some of my family members do, yeah, they're not going to have that in there anymore. So it's going to be healthier for you. They may not look as brilliant, but they won't taste any different.
Yeah, they're not going to taste bad. That was just a aesthetics product.
It makes them look very like they put in cottage cheese to make the cottage cheese look whiter.
Why?
And toothpaste. A lot of toothpaste has titanium dioxide in it. So, it's just one of those things that could cause cancer. There's no hard evidence saying it could, but there's something about the biology of it, the micro, how small it is. It could cause it. So getting it out of Skittles, good thing. And I'm happy that's happening. So,
why do we need our toothpaste more white? Our cottage cheese more white?
Right. And other countries have banned it already. Yeah. We're just the last ones to do it. So, otherwise, I went for a run today.
What day is it? It's
Thursday.
No, yeah. So I worked out super heavy last night and I'm paying for it today. And, Monday I did my cardio and I didn't because of the holiday, I didn't do a lot of weightlifting, a lot of cardio, but not a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
So we'll get back on schedule because we won't have a holiday until July, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Screw up the work week. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all I got for this episode.
Yeah.
Anything else? Next week we're gonna endeavor to have a machine for Dave that will not fail because this has been too. You were killer of machines, Dave, destroyer of machines.
Yeah, I mean this machine's back from the 1920s, but it still works.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for streaming.
It doesn't work fast enough for streaming, but what do you expect from coal power?
That's right. Where's the hamster?
I think something
hamster and a wheel on there somewhere. All right, we will see you next week. I hope if you watched it and enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We need hits. If I get over 1,000 people subscribing to my channel, my chapter lines will work inside the timeline, and so that'll be helping. I have 25 now, so I've got some. We've got some buildup we have to do, but hopefully as we get into the election season, that'll start growing. So
And please comment too. Don't just text us if you happen to know
yeah,
our phone
John.
numbers. Just there's a comment section on there for you. You know, you're watching obviously, so you know it's okay to use the comments.
All right. We will see you next week. I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
It's Duluth Conservative, and we will see you next week.